Hello, and thanks for joining us for the matchup alongside Dale Ollie and Matt Williamson, who you listen to on The Drive on Steelers Nation Radio. I'm Rob King. It's a playoff preview, AFC wildcard matchup between the 10-7 Steelers and the 11-6 Buffalo Bills. And guys, the Bills have been installed as prohibitive favorites, but anytime you get weather conditions like we're expecting in Buffalo, that tends to seem to, at least anyway, even the playing field. The weather forecast gets worse and worse every time we look at it, but this could be an opportunity to navigate the environment, not just the crowd itself, but the actual weather coming up on Sunday.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And you know, this isn't a situation where you've got like Miami going to Buffalo. These are two teams that know how to deal with the weather. It's, you know, whichever team deals with it better could win this game.
Yeah, I mean, the environment in general. I mean, Bills Mafia is not going to care that it's snowing. I mean, they're going to be jumping through tables and doing what they do, and it's going to be crazy no matter what. But then you got another obstacle to overcome. But maybe it levels the playing field a little bit. Who's to say? I mean, both these teams have been playing basically playoff games now for a while. They're on winning streaks, and they're both running the football a lot. And
arguably worse conditions in Baltimore when you think about just the wind and the rain for for a quarterback like Mason Rudolph, who continues to play well. The Steelers are going to be going up against one of the top defenses, the Buffalo Bills, in terms of points allowed against. They're one of the top 5 teams in the league in that department, but not that great, Dale, against the run. About middle of the pack. The Steelers have averaged 157 yards per game over their 3-game winning streak on the ground, so maybe get big.
Yeah, in this situation, you know, the Bills love to play nickel defense. They played 80 to 90% of the time because they're built to play with a lead, and they want you throwing the football. In this instance, with the weather the way it's going to be and what you're going to face up there, get bigger. Put more 13 personnel with 3 tight ends out there, or use an extra offensive lineman. You've got a 240-pound running back, and use those guys kind of as a battering ram and see if you can beat this team into submission, because the inside linebackers are 224, 230 pounds. They're not big guys.
Without question. And again, they're going to have 5 defensive backs on the field quite a bit. I mean, I think I would probably just keep bringing bigger and bigger personnel to see what the breaking point to get them out of nickel is. And kind of as Dale mentioned, they have a talented front 7, 6, whatever you want to call it, but they're more sports cars than they are snowplows. You know, there's not a lot of big-bodied, bulldozers in there.
I'm going to get to one of those guys in a moment, but I do want to point out that their leading tacklers, in addition to those linebackers, are the safety Jordan Poyer-Johnson, the cornerback, 190-pound guys. So you mentioned your 240-pound running back. Maybe you can wear these guys down or get them out of their preferred defense into something else.
Yeah, it's certainly something that worked a couple of weeks ago against Seattle, that you just kept pounding away with Najee Harris, and then again last week against Baltimore where he got 26 carries. So 53 carries for Najee the last 2 weeks. Maybe get him up over 70 carries over a 3-week period in this game.
Well, Bernard, to me, he's a really good linebacker. He covers. He has 6.5 sacks, even though they don't blitz that much. He's their leading tackler. But the guy that I'm concerned about is Ed Oliver, another guy who can wreak havoc both in the run game and the pass game. So my key is to get those guards, whether he winds up on the left side or the right side, Daniels and Ciamalo, to blow him out of there. Don't let him be disruptive in the pass game. Eventually, you're going to have to throw the football. I think we all agree we'd like to see as little throwing as possible. But Oliver's a really good player. He signed a big 4-year contract extension. He's followed that up with a career type of season. As I mentioned, the 9.5 sacks. He's a really good player.
Yeah, I mean, quick, a little undersized at 280 pounds, but he's got a quick first step, and he gets upfield very well. So you're going to have to handle him from the get-go there, and maybe try to guide him where you want him to go as opposed to where he wants to go.
And it's him and Daquan Jones as the other defensive tackle. Again, it's the linebackers, the defensive tackles, the safety in the corner that they really rely on to stop the running game.
100%. And Jones is a good player as well. He doesn't get as much publicity as he probably should. He missed some time. I mentioned earlier they don't have a lot of dump trucks in there, but that's more his style. He's more the physical, push you around, pocket pusher as opposed to explode off the snap like Oliver.
I think if we were looking at this game at a bird's eye view, we'd say run the football, right? Don't let them make the big plays. Let the Steelers make the big plays. And if you're going to talk about big plays, you're going to talk about Pickens, 18.1 yards per reception. That leads the NFL.
Yeah, and who knows how much passing they will be doing. I mean, the weather's obviously looming, and it worked just fine last week, but 0 catches for your probably most talented and most dangerous player. probably isn't going to cut it in the playoffs. You need to get this guy the ball.
And Mason Rudolph's been, we haven't even mentioned him, right? So, yes, get the ball to Pickens, get the ball to Johnson. Last week in really tough conditions, 18 out of 20, he didn't throw the ball down the field that often. He threw one ball I thought was beautiful that maybe could have been caught by Johnson. But 18 of 20, he has 118 quarterback rating. He's 3-0 as a starter. If he can distribute the ball well in adverse windy conditions, I've heard wind gusts up to 50 miles an hour and wind blowing 20 to 30. Short throws that maybe guys like Pickens can turn into big plays.
Yeah, try to find ways to, just matriculate the ball down the field without turning it over. I mean, I think that's the key. You have to win the turnover battle in this game. Count on Josh Allen throwing at least one, and maybe fumbling or something like that. That's the one thing that Mason Rudolph has avoided thus far in terms of the interceptions. I know he fumbled the ball a couple times last week. I think everybody had a fumble at least once last week in that game in the rain. But take care of the football. Take what's there. Take what the defense is giving you. And if that's George Pickens, find ways to get him the football because he is your most explosive player on offense.
And I think we should point out too, Matt, that Buffalo gets a lot of pressure, but they don't rely that much on the blitz. They're not a heavy blitzing team, although I mentioned Bernard with his 6.5 sacks. They mostly get it from those guys on the edge, the guys in the middle, and they get a lot of pressure on opposing quarterbacks.
They do. That's what they're built for. I mean, as Dale mentioned, they're often playing with a lead, but I don't think they're particularly built for their weather, where they play in the country. Again, there are a lot of twitchy first-round pick athletes up front, and they bring them in waves. They'll probably play 7 or 8 deep across the defensive line, but none of them besides Jones would you say is a real bulky, physical player.
All right, it is time now for our Yins Chat Playoff Challenge. We have an interesting question for you. Each week, you answer Steelers trivia, make game day picks for a chance to win signed helmets, jerseys, or footballs. This week's prize, a signed Najee Harris jersey and over and under 60.5 rushing yards. I'm going over. I think that they're going to feed him a lot, and I think they can be effective running the football. I think they need to be effective running the football, so I'm going over the 60.5 yards.
Yeah, I'm with you, Rob. I think 60.5 is maybe even on the low end of what I would consider he gets in this game because, again, 25-plus carries in each of the last 2 games. I can't see them getting away from that, particularly with the weather, so I'll go over 60.5.
Yeah, I hate when we all agree on these, but I think that number is just too low for him considering the workload he's shown the last couple of weeks. So would I expect him to get in this one? And one thing people might not know about Harris is he's amongst the league leaders in explosive runs. I mean, 15-plus yards, he's near the top of the league. People don't look at him in that light. So he only needs 1 or 2 of those to almost hit this number,
Yep, and speaking of explosive, we know the Bills' offense can be explosive with Josh Allen and the playmakers they have. Up next, we will take a look at the Steelers' defense against Josh Allen and the Bills' offense when the matchup continues.
Want to get gear direct from the team? Shop all things black and gold at the official Steelers Pro Shop located at Acrisure Stadium. Get the latest sideline apparel and hats, jerseys of your favorite players, authentic memorabilia, custom gear, and exclusives you can only find here. Don't forget, you aren't game day ready without a terrible towel. The Steelers Pro Shop has everything you need to be part of the legendary Steelers Nation. Come experience the Acrisure Stadium shopping environment or shop online at shop.steelers.com.
And welcome back to the matchup as we continue to get you ready for the 10-7 Steelers visiting the 11-6 Buffalo Bills. And I think the Bills are a big national story. They were 6-6, a team that was perceived to be a Super Bowl contender. They were, kind of left dead in the water. They won their last 5 games. And I think people have seen that on national TV. You beat the Cowboys at home. You beat Miami and Kansas City on the road. So people are well aware of what they've been doing down the stretch. Man, not as big a national story. The Steelers won 3 in a row. And you mentioned, Matt, that every game's been like a playoff game for both these teams
for quite a while
down the stretch. But the Steelers overall, when you look at what they've done against winning teams and teams that are going into the playoffs, they've done pretty well.
Yeah, but both these teams have some impressive signature wins against playoff caliber teams, double-digit win teams, things of that nature. And you're right. I mean, they've been in do-or-die situation now for at least 3 games for the Steelers and over a month with the Bills.
Yeah, and I think when you look at it, I know the Steelers are the 7 seed going into these playoffs, and since they've gone to the 7 seeds in the playoffs, that 7 seed, even some of the 6 seeds, haven't done real well. But I think because of the overall depth of the AFC this year, the Steelers are a better number 7 seed than some of the other teams that we've seen, kind of sneaking into the playoffs over the years. Again, you go 8-5 against teams with winning records. You played 13 games against teams with winning records this season and won the majority of them. You're a pretty good football team.
And 5-3 against teams going into the playoffs, including wins against teams in your division, Green Bay, the Rams. So some quality wins down the stretch as well. All right, let's take a look at the keys as far as the Steelers defense going against the Bills offense. I think for everybody, I'm going to take the low-hanging fruit. You have to go with Josh Allen. Sure. And I would say this too. Look, this guy has turned the ball over a ton. 18 interceptions. That's the second most in the NFL. He's added additional fumbles as well. But it's also the consistency of it. I mean, 17 games, 14 of those games, he's thrown interceptions. You'd say you're going to be guaranteed a turnover, but we know the Steelers, they're the third best team in the league in turnover differential at plus 11. The Bills turn it over a lot. They force turnovers a lot, but I think if the Steelers can force him into a turnover and win the turnover battle, it could go a long way toward them pulling an upset.
And it's not just where you get the turnover or when you get the turnovers, or it's also where you get that turnover. Is it in the red zone? That's a huge swing. Is it deep in their own end of the field where you set your offense up for an easy score, particularly in a game like this that weather could be a factor, and you'd like to get one where you either stop them from scoring or you set your own team up to score.
Yeah, and listen, he turns the ball over. Okay, we know that. He also has 15 rushing touchdowns. That's second most in the league.
Yeah.
He throws a
44
lot of touchdown
total,
passes.
yeah.
I don't want to say that, hey, just turn him over, no problem. I mean, he creates so many issues, and it'll be interesting to see how they attack him without T.J. Watt. We know the Steelers are 1-10 without T.J. Watt. Will these edge guys now try to get after him? Will they try to contain him in the pocket, not let him run around and make plays? That's going to be a little bit of an interesting sort of mind game within the game.
100%. And originally I looked at this and thought, Minkah Fitzpatrick should be back, KZ's back. The back end for the Steelers defense might be a little better prepared than it has been in previous weeks, but you don't have Watt. So maybe you should blitz more to manufacture that pressure. I think it's the opposite. I think he kills blitz, and you don't want to be the team that misses a tackle because you're one short in the back end. Whether it's him running or hitting Diggs on a quick hitter or Cook or Kincaid or whomever. So I think you kind of play it a little less so in terms of blitzing. And I think you attack the right side of their offensive line.
Right. We'll get to that in a moment. I just wanted to point out because, we're doing it now.
All right, let's do it.
Go.
Keep it going. Huh?
Keep going.
They have a good line, and they've barely missed any snaps from their starting 5. They'd like to bring a 6th guy in fact, too, which I think we'll see even more of with the weather. But the right side of the offensive line is pretty suspect in pass protection. Makes you think, boy, wish they had Watt. But, I mean, when Watt went out, they flirted with Highsmith on the left side a little bit. Herbig's going to get a lot more snaps. Golden's going to get a lot more snaps. They've played on both sides. I just wonder if they have something a little bit more dialed up for their right guard and tackle.
Yeah, and the point I was going to make about Allen is, there's some talk like the Steelers love to hit Lamar Jackson, right? They hit him a lot, and they've been pretty effective against Lamar Jackson. You hit this guy, it may hurt you worse than it's going to hurt him. I mean, he's just a big, strong fellow, Josh Allen.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of Ben Roethlisberger there in terms of the size and mobility. I mean, people forget how mobile Roethlisberger was early in his career. Well, it was just kind of, mobile, maybe not to the level of him running with the ball, and designed runs and things like that, but moving around in the pocket and shaking off guys. You see a lot of that with that. He also has the big arm like Roethlisberger. There's a lot of chaos there when you play against Allen. And can you survive the chaos and make it turn against them? That's the key.
When you look at the Buffalo Bills, too, they love to run the ball. They love to run the ball at home. They're 5th in the league in averaging 5.7 yards per play. When these two teams met last year, 10.2 yards per play. They basically averaged a first down every time they snapped the ball.
He hit a 97-yard touchdown or whatever. That sure helps.
A couple big ones to Gabe Davis. My point in this is that we're talking about Pickens on the Steelers end. Maybe you can spring him to make a big play. I'm sure the Bills are thinking the same thing about Stephon Diggs, and your matchup is Porter against Diggs in this one.
Yeah, I mean, Joey Porter Jr. has been matching up against the other teams opposing their best wide receiver week in and week out, and he's gotten beaten at times, but he's also won those matchups as well. Particularly at some key moments as you see him break up a passer for DK Metcalf in the end zone. So he's been a key player in that. And I'll also be interested to see how the Steelers defend the tight end Dalton Kincaid, because those are their two main passing weapons. You're getting Minkah Fitzpatrick back for this one. Maybe you put Minkah down and play him a little bit more of that robber, and allow him to keep an eye on not only the tight end, but allow him to watch Allen a little bit as well, maybe in some spy type situations. But they're a tough team to defend because everything that Allen does, and they also have that great wide receiver on the outside with Diggs. So if Porter can hold his own there, that's a big plus.
And as you pointed out when we were getting ready for this show, they love to run the ball, especially at home.
Oh, they sure do. And since their coordinator changed, they've spiked a lot in terms of run percentage. At home, they're number one in terms of running the football. And they don't really have a big power back, but that's their quarterback. In the last 2 weeks, he's run the ball almost 25 times, something along those lines. And their main back, James Cook's a smaller guy, but along the lines of what Dale was talking about, they'll split him out wide. He'll be in the slot. He's a good receiving weapon too.
Right, a lot of challenges for the Steelers defense against this Bills offense. The 10-7 Steelers visiting the Bills at Highmark Stadium in Buffalo. Kickoff is scheduled for 1 o'clock on Sunday. For Dale Lally and Matt Williamson, I'm Rob King. Thanks for watching this edition of The Matchup.